If you had told me 6 months ago that my completely mundane job as a phlebotomist would somehow lead to the biggest economic revolution in galactic history, I would have laughed so hard I'd probably pass out from lack of oxygen. Which, coincidentally, is exactly what happened to the first alien who tried to explain to me why human blood was so special. Though to be fair, that was less about the humor of the situation, and more about them forgetting that humans can't breathe methane. But let me back up a bit. My name is Max Fletcher, and I have what used to be the most boring job on Galactic Medical Station 47. Used to be. Now it's probably the most important job in the known universe, but we'll get to that part later. See, when humanity first made contact with the galactic community about 20 years ago, one of the first things the aliens wanted was to study us. Apparently, we're fascinating specimens with unique biological properties. Standard xenobiology stuff, or so everyone thought. They set up these massive medical research stations all around Earth's orbit, and suddenly being a phlebotomist wasn't just about helping Mrs. Johnson monitor her cholesterol levels. Now it was about advancing interspecies medical knowledge and fostering galactic cooperation. What it actually meant was sitting in a sterile white room for 8 hours a day, drawing blood from an endless parade of human volunteers who were more interested in the alien tax credits than any noble scientific pursuit. The novelty of working with alien scientists wore off pretty quick, especially since most of them looked like someone had tried to cross a jellyfish with a filing cabinet. Sample extraction complete, I announced for what felt like the millionth time that day, carefully placing the vial of blood into the quantum-sealed container. That'll be 50 universal credits, standard rate for a 100 milliliters donation. The alien scientist across from me, a Dr. Krillix whose transparent body pulsed with what I'd learned to recognize as excitement, did something I'd never seen before. They immediately transferred 5,000 credits to my terminal. I blinked at the display. Dr. Krillix? I think there's been a mistake. You added a few too many zeros there. No mistake, they bubbled enthusiastically, their translucent tentacles wrapping protectively around the container. Fair market value. Very fair. Extremely fair. Must go now. More research. Very important. And with that, they practically oozed out of the room at what had to be a new land speed record for a gelatinous being. I sat there for a good 5 minutes staring at the credit transfer notification and trying to make sense of what had just happened. In 3 years of working at GMS 47, I'd never seen an alien scientist so much as haggle over the price, let alone voluntarily pay 100 times the standard rate. Something weird was definitely going on, and if there's one thing humans are consistently good at, it's sticking our noses exactly where advanced alien civilizations don't want them. Little did I know I was about to stumble into a conspiracy that would make Watergate look like a parking violation. Here's the thing about working on a space station. Gossip travels faster than a quantum particle, especially when it involves mysterious overpayments. Within days of my encounter with Dr. Krillix, I started noticing things, weird things, the kind of things that make you question whether the artificial gravity is affecting your brain. First, the number of alien research facilities requesting human blood samples tripled. Not just on GMS 47, but across every medical station in Earth's orbit. The payment offers got increasingly ridiculous. One Voraxian corporation tried to offer a small moon in exchange for a steady supply. We had to turn that one down because, honestly, who needs the parking headache? Then I caught Dr. Krillix in the storage room at 3 a.m. station time, literally hugging a crate of blood samples and making what their species considers singing noises. It sounded like a garbage disposal trying to digest a metal pipe, but that's not the point. The point is, something was making our usually stoic alien colleagues act like addicts, desperate for their next fix. And the breaking point came during what should have been a routine collection from a new volunteer, some college kid trying to earn enough credits for a 0G skateboard. A group of alien scientists practically fought each other to be the first ones to claim his samples. We're talking about respected xenobiologists in formal environmental suits having a slap fight with their tentacles. It would have been hilarious if it wasn't so disturbing. Okay, that's it, I declared, stepping between two particularly aggressive researchers who were trying to out-wobble each other. Nobody's getting any samples until somebody explains what's going on. The room went quieter than a vacuum. The aliens all looked at each other, their various appendages twitching nervously. Finally, a young intern I'd gotten friendly with, Pip Z99, spoke up. They were fresh out of the Galactic Science Academy and still had that idealistic glow that made their bioluminescent spots extra sparkly. "The humans don't know?" Pip Z99 asked, their eye stalks swiveling in what I'd learned to recognize as confusion. "About the quantum resonance properties? The what now?" "The way human hemoglobin creates a perfect catalytic matrix for FTL fuel refinement," they continued, apparently not noticing the other scientists frantically gesturing for them to shut up. "1 unit of human blood can refine enough fuel to power a cruise ship for a standard solar cycle. It's literally the most efficient organic catalyst ever discovered." I sat down, hard. "Are you telling me that while we've been selling our blood for pocket change, you've been using it to power your spaceships?" "Oh, not just spaceships," Pip Z99 said cheerfully, still completely missing their colleagues' increasingly desperate attempts to silence them. "The refined catalyst is used in everything from personal transporters to planetary defense systems. The galactic economy basically runs on human blood at this point." "Why did you think we were so eager to make first contact?" The other scientists had given up on subtle signals and were now simply holding their faces in their appendages, making various species-specific sounds of distress. I looked at the small vial of blood in my hand, then at the credit terminal showing the standard 50-credit payment rate, then back at the vial that apparently contained enough potential energy to power a small city. "Pip Z99, I said slowly. "I think you and I need to have a longer conversation about fair market values and the concept of price fixing." That's when the station's security alerts started blaring, and things got really interesting. Fun fact about space stations: when you're running from corporate security, there are really only so many places you can go, especially when your companion is a bioluminescent alien who literally glows in the dark. "I still don't understand why we're hiding," Pip Z99 whispered, as we crouched behind some storage crates in the maintenance level. Their spots were pulsing a nervous shade of purple that I really wish they could turn off. I only shared publicly available scientific data. "Publicly available where exactly?" I asked, checking the corridor for any signs of the security teams I could hear stomping around nearby. "On the Galactic Advanced Sciences Network, of course. Though now that I think about it, it's strange that the network is blocked in all human territories." I resisted the urge to bang my head against the wall. Yeah, that might be a tiny clue in this mystery. We'd managed to download a significant chunk of data from the station's research logs before the security lockdown kicked in. Pip Z99's academic credentials had given us access to files that painted a picture so ridiculous it had to be true. 20 years ago, when the first alien survey ship analyzed human blood samples, they nearly crashed their vessel in excitement. Here was a substance that could revolutionize fuel efficiency across the galaxy, and it came in convenient self-replicating packages called humans who had no idea of its value. The potential profits were astronomical. Rather than risk humans demanding fair market value for their miracle blood, the major galactic corporations conspired to keep us in the dark. They set up these medical research stations as elaborate fronts, making sure to keep the real research classified on networks humans couldn't access. "According to these financial projections," I said, scrolling through the data on my tablet, "the galactic fuel industry makes roughly 12 trillion credits annually from refined human blood products. Last year they paid humans a total of 2 million credits. That does seem like a somewhat imbalanced trade relationship," Pip Z99 observed. "You think?" A squad of security officers clattered past our hiding spot, their heavy magnetic boots making enough noise to wake a hibernating Uranusian cave bear. Among them was Dr. Krillix, their usually transparent body now clouded with what looked like anxiety. "The human must not be allowed to leave the station," they burbled to the security team. "The consequences to the market would be catastrophic." "Too late for that," I muttered, patting the emergency broadcaster in my pocket. I'd already sent a complete data package to my cousin, who worked for Earth's largest news network. The only reason we were still hiding was to buy enough time for the story to break. "I believe they're quite concerned about the economic implications," Pip Z99 noted, as we watched another security team rush past, "though I'm not sure why. Surely a fair renegotiation of blood procurement prices would benefit everyone in the long term." I stared at my alien friend. For a highly educated scientist, they could be adorably naive about capitalism. "Pip, the corporations have been running the biggest price-fixing scam in galactic history. They've been paying humans pocket change for something worth more than precious metals, then selling it back to the entire galaxy at a markup that would make a loan shark blush. When this gets out..." My tablet suddenly lit up with an incoming priority message. My cousin had received the data package, and the story was about to hit every news outlet in human space simultaneously. I grinned at Pip Z99. "Want to watch the galaxy's biggest economic bubble pop? That's when the station's artificial gravity suddenly failed and everything went sideways. Literally. Remember how I mentioned that Dr. Krilk's was basically a sentient jellyfish? Turns out they're surprisingly fast in zero gravity. Also surprisingly good at using maintenance corridors as shortcuts, which is how they managed to catch up to us just as my cousin's broadcast began. The look on their gelatinous face as emergency news alerts started flashing across every screen in the station was almost worth the chaos that followed. Almost. Have you ever seen what happens when an entire galactic economy simultaneously realizes it's built on a house of cards? It's like watching a trillion dominoes fall at once, except each domino is a major corporation, and instead of falling gracefully, they're all panic-selling stocks while screaming. Within hours of my cousin's broadcast, the galactic fuel market went into free fall. Trading was suspended on 17 different stock exchanges. 6 major corporations declared emergency bankruptcy. And that was just in the first day. Watching it unfold from the station's detention center was surreal. They'd finally caught us when Dr. Krilix had the bright idea to activate the emergency fire suppression system. Fun fact, it's really hard to run when you're being sprayed with fire-retardant foam in zero gravity. I remained confused about the extreme market reaction, Pip Z99 said from the cell next to mine. They'd been arrested as my co-conspirator, though their spots were pulsing with what I'd learned to recognize as barely contained excitement, rather than worry. Surely the corporations could have anticipated eventual human discovery of their blood's true value. Through the transparent wall of my cell, I could see various alien officials rushing past in states of increasing panic. One of them was carrying what appeared to be a resignation letter written on actual paper. Old school. "That's not even the best part," I said, watching the news feeds scrolling across the cell's info screen. "Check out what's happening on Earth." The human response to learning we'd been sitting on liquid gold this whole time was exactly what you'd expect. Protests outside every medical research station. Blood banks suddenly hiring armed security. Price gouging that would make a medieval leech merchant blush, and some entrepreneur in Silicon Valley had already launched a startup promising artisanal, free-range human blood products. Their stock was worth more than Apple's. "Breaking news," the feed announced. "Earth's governments have jointly declared all human blood products a controlled strategic resource. New regulations require all existing contracts for blood collection to be renegotiated under oversight from the newly formed Department of Hematological Commerce." I couldn't help but laugh at the footage of alien corporate executives trying to navigate Earth's suddenly very crowded orbit. Their ships were stuck in a massive traffic jam as everyone tried to reach the planet at once, all desperate to secure new contracts before their competitors. "Did you know this would happen?" Pip Z99 asked, their eye stalks swiveling toward me curiously. "That humans would immediately weaponize capitalism the moment we realized we had something valuable? Yeah, that was pretty much guaranteed." The station's commander, a towering insectoid named Vector Prime, appeared outside our cells looking like they'd rather be anywhere else in the universe. Their mandibles were clicking in what I'd learned was the equivalent of a stress twitch. "The Galactic Corporate Council has requested your presence at emergency negotiations," they chittered reluctantly. "Both of you." I raised an eyebrow. "Requested?" "Begged, actually. Their exact words were, 'Please don't let the humans nationalize blood production. We'll pay anything.'" "Anything?" I echoed, a grin spreading across my face. Vector Prime's antennae drooped. "I was afraid you'd focus on that part." As they deactivated our cells, I could see more news alerts flashing across the screens. Earth's major powers were already discussing the formation of OPEC 2.0, the Organization of Plasma Exporting Countries. Someone had even designed a logo. Humanity had spent 20 years thinking we were lucky just to be included in the galactic community. Turns out we were the ones holding all the cards. Well, all the blood cells, technically. "Come on, Pip," I said as we followed Vector Prime toward the station's main conference room. "Let's go teach some alien corporations about the joys of fair market capitalism." I believe I'm beginning to understand why humans are classified as a Class A disruption risk to galactic stability, Pip Z99 observed cheerfully. They had no idea how right they were. The thing about being suddenly thrust into high-stakes galactic negotiations is that nobody warns you about the chairs. The conference room was equipped with seating options for 17 different body types, and I somehow got stuck with something designed for a species that apparently thinks in 4 dimensions. I kept almost falling into yesterday. The alien executives weren't doing much better. Most of them had rushed to the station so quickly they hadn't bothered with proper environmental suits. Dr. Krillix was stress-sweating so much they had to keep absorbing their own excess fluid to maintain shape. Another exec, who appeared to be made primarily of crystal, was literally cracking under pressure. "Let me see if I understand this correctly," the human representative from the newly formed Department of Hematological Commerce said, reviewing her notes. "You've been paying humans 50 credits per blood donation, then processing that same donation into fuel catalyst worth approximately 25,000 credits. "That's not entirely accurate," a Varaxian executive protested, their eye clusters blinking nervously. "After processing costs, marketing and executive bonuses, our profit margin was only 24,000 credits per donation." The room went quiet enough to hear a pin drop, or in this case, to hear the sound of the human representative's stylus snapping in half. "Bold strategy," I whispered to Pip Z99, who was taking notes with such enthusiasm. Their bioluminescent spots were creating a light show. "Let's see how admitting to a 48,000% markup works out for them." "The Galactic Corporate Council is, of course, prepared to offer a more competitive rate," another executive quickly interjected. This one looked like a business suit had achieved sentience and decided to become a cloud of gas. "Perhaps 100 credits per donation?" 100? I couldn't help but laugh. "I'm sorry, did you misplace a few zeros there?" The human representative cleared her throat. "Earth's governments have already drafted new regulations. From now on, all human blood products will be treated as a controlled strategic resource. Private collection is suspended. All existing contracts are void." The crystal executive cracked a bit more. But that's not fair," Dr. Krillix burbled in distress. "Do you realize what this will do to the galactic economy?" "Oh, you mean like how fair it was to keep humans in the dark about our blood's true value for 20 years? I asked innocently. "That kind of fair?" "The Department of Hematological Commerce will begin accepting bids for new supply contracts next week," the representative continued. Ignore the growing alien panic. "Minimum bid starts at 10,000 credits per unit. All proceeds will be split between the donor and their governing authority." 10,000? The gaseous executive flickered in what might have been a feint. "That's highway robbery." "No," I corrected them, "that's capitalism. Welcome to the free market, now with actual market freedom." Pipsy 99's spots were pulsing with academic excitement. "This is fascinating. I believe we're witnessing the first instance of reverse colonization through biological resource control in galactic history. My thesis advisor is going to be thrilled. The negotiations continued for hours. The alien executives tried everything from threats to bribes to actual begging. But they had one small problem. There's no such thing as synthetic human blood. Trust me, they'd tried. Something about the quantum properties only working with the real thing. By the end of the day, humanity had secured the most lucrative trade deal in history. Turns out, when you have a monopoly on something everybody needs, you get to name your price. The aliens had spent 20 years thinking they were so clever, taking advantage of the new kids in the galactic neighborhood. They probably should have checked if those kids had something important in their veins first. As the shell-shocked executives filed out of the conference room, Dr. Krillix paused by my chair. They had literally deflated to half their normal size from stress. "You realize this changes everything?" they asked. I grinned. "Actually, I think it's about to change even more than you think." Because while everyone had been focused on the blood controversy, I'd noticed something interesting in those classified research files. Something about the unique properties of human caffeine. 1 year later. If you'd told me that discovering the true value of human blood would lead to me having an office with a view of Jupiter, I probably would have believed you, because that's honestly one of the less weird things that happened this year. I mean, last week I had to approve a requisition for artisanal blood collection chairs made from endangered Martian mahogany. That's apparently a thing now. My new business card reads Chief Blood Relations Officer of the Terran Hematological Exchange. PIPZ 99 insisted we add and Interspecies Strategic Resources Consultant in smaller print, mostly because they're still convinced we'll need the broader title once the caffeine thing goes public. The card also features a holographic red blood cell that dances when you tilt it. Our marketing department has gotten a bit carried away with the whole blood is life, life is money campaign. "The latest quarterly reports are in," Pip announced, their spots glowing with their usual enthusiastic shade of blue as they entered my office. They'd been officially hired as my assistant after publishing an award-winning thesis on the economic implications of biological resource control in post-contact human society. The thesis had gone viral in academic circles, partly because it was brilliant, and partly because Pip had included a series of memes explaining complex economic theories. The one comparing human blood markets to cat videos in terms of viral potential is now standard teaching material at the Galactic Economic Institute. "Let me guess," I said, watching a luxury space yacht drift past my window. The side of it was emblazoned with "Paid for by O negative" in crystals that probably cost more than my first apartment. "We're still making money? The new blood futures market has stabilized at 15,000 credits per unit," they confirmed, their eye stalks bobbing with excitement, though there's some concern about the emerging black market for unauthorized blood collection. I snorted. "You mean the vampire startup bros?" Some entrepreneurs had tried setting up illegal collection operations, but it turns out that when your product is literally inside law-abiding citizens, it's pretty hard to steal it without someone noticing. The few attempts had been shut down faster than a fusion reactor in a solar flare. My favorite was the group that tried to disguise their illegal collection facility as a trendy vampire-themed nightclub. They might have gotten away with it too if they hadn't tried to file the bribes as alternative plasma acquisition costs on their tax returns. The legitimate blood trade, on the other hand, was booming. The newly established hematological citizen dividend meant that every human now received a universal basic income just for existing and having a circulatory system. We'd basically stumbled into post-scarcity economics through sheer biological luck. Some philosophers were having existential crises about humanity achieving utopia through literal blood money, but it's hard to hear ethical debates over the sound of prosperity. "Dr. Krillix sent another gift basket," Pip noted, gesturing to a floating package by the door that was attempting to play what sounded like a guilty apology in 7-dimensional harmonics. "I believe this is their 7th apology for the whole conspiracy thing. This one appears to contain what they claim are regret crystals from the Remorse Nebula. Add it to the others, I said. The former research director had transformed their guilt into an aggressive gift-giving campaign. My apartment back on Earth was starting to look like a duty-free shop had exploded. Last month they sent me a small moon. I had to politely decline because the paperwork for personal celestial body ownership is ridiculous, and besides, where would I park it? Oh, and the Galactic Coffee Corporation's called again, Pip added, their spots flickering with barely contained amusement. They're getting nervous about the rising human investment in coffee plantations. The Varaxian Trade Consortium specifically asked why Earth's biggest blood magnates are suddenly very interested in agricultural futures. That was the really funny part. While everyone had been distracted by the blood revelation, nobody had noticed that humans were quietly buying up every coffee farm on Earth. The classified files I'd found had shown that caffeine, when processed correctly, could be used to create quantum computing processors, 1,000 times more powerful than current technology. A single shot of espresso contained enough potential computing power to run a small planet's worth of AI systems. The galactic corporations had been so focused on our blood that they'd completely missed the other valuable substance humans had been casually drinking every morning. At current market projections, a cup of coffee was worth more than its weight in antimatter. The fact that humans had been using it to power through Monday meetings, rather than revolutionizing galactic computing, was going to be the punchline of the century. "Should we warn them?" Pip asked, their eye stalks tilting in what I'd learned was their species' equivalent of a mischievous grin. "The Centaurian Stock Exchange is starting to ask questions about why Earth's coffee consumption has dropped 30% while production has doubled." "Nah," I said, watching another luxury yacht float by. This one had Type AB+ written in solid gold letters, with a small subtitle reading, "Universal Donor, Universal Success." "I think humanity deserves to keep at least one secret for a while. Besides, I've got money on how long it takes them to figure it out." 10,000 credits says they notice when Starbucks tries to open a franchise on Alpha Centauri. "You're on, though I think they might catch on when they realize all our new artisanal coffee storage facilities are actually quantum processor fabrication plants in disguise." The best part was that the aliens couldn't even complain this time. We weren't hiding anything. Humans were very openly obsessed with coffee. The galactic community had just assumed it was one of our weird biological quirks, like our tendency to name our cleaning robots or our inexplicable attraction to dangerous apex predators. They'd written dozens of xenoanthropology papers about human caffeine ritual behaviors without ever thinking to analyze what the stuff actually did. "The Department of Caffeinated Commerce has a nice ring to it," Pip mused, their spots cycling through shades of amused purple. "Though perhaps we should wait until after the reveal to suggest that name. The current working title is Strategic Beverage Resources Division." As I looked out at the stars, I couldn't help but laugh at how things had turned out. Humanity had spent centuries dreaming about what we'd find when we finally reached space. Advanced technology, ancient wisdom, maybe even the secrets of the universe. Instead, we discovered that we'd been accidentally carrying the galaxy's most valuable substance in our veins the whole time. And soon they'd learn about the second most valuable substance in our coffee cups. The real irony was that we probably had dozens more revolutionary substances just waiting to be discovered. Who knew what they'd find in our tears or sweat, or that weird gunk that builds up in the corner of your eyes while you sleep? "Hey Pip, how do you feel about expanding your title to include caffeine relations?" I asked, already imagining the next wave of galactic economic chaos. "I have a feeling we're going to need an expert in explaining seemingly obvious things to surprised aliens." Their spots turned my favorite shade of excited purple. "I've already drafted 3 papers on the socio-economic implications of beverage-based technological disruption. Also, I may have designed some memes comparing coffee futures to cat videos." The galaxy wasn't ready for what was coming next, but at least they'd be well fueled for it. And somewhere out there in a luxury space yacht paid for with blood money, I like to think there's an alien executive staring into their morning cup of coffee, completely unaware that they're holding enough computing potential to calculate the meaning of life. Sometimes the best cosmic jokes are the ones running through your bloodstream, or in this case, your coffee cup. This one was just getting started.